Today is not just an ordinary day. Today is an extraordinary day here on Albuquerque's west side. And the reason this day is so important to me, it's because of individuals like Joan Jones that was involved in our community for so many years, and this community center was named after Joan Jones. It's the Joan Jones Community Center at Atrisco Hills. And I also want to thank Richard Elwell, my former boss, and this was the first job that I've ever had, was here at the Pat Hurley Community Center. This was the first community center on Albuquerque's west side. And it was just a small building for many, many years. But Joan and people like Richard never gave up on this dream of building a major complex here on Albuquerque's west side. And here at the Pat Hurley Community Center, you know, we've always heard the bad news about Pat Hurley, some of the shootings that have taken place, but things have really improved drastically. And on top of the hill, we've got some magnificent views of this great city. But Joan and Richard played a major part in this area. And for many, many years, Richard approached me and said, you know, we've got to get this community center built. And Joan's fought that hard fight for so many years. Richard was also a teacher at Rio Grande High School. And John Adams, I think he also taught, but was a basketball coach. So his love and his passion for young kids was incredible. And Richard is here today to say a few words, and I will call him up in just a few minutes. But Senator Jacob Candelaria could not be here today. And I'm not sure if Mo Maestas was going to be coming down. They say no. But I want to thank our senator and our representative for all the work that they've done, because without the support of our legislative body, we wouldn't have been able to get this project done together. And with the limited amount of resources that we have as a city, when we can partner with the city, we can partner with the county, we can partner with the APS school board members in the schools, and we can partner with the state legislators, we can make these projects a reality. Because we cannot, in many cases, do this alone, but this has been on the horizon for so many years. And again, I want to thank the staff and the individuals that worked on this project. Director Doug Chapman, who will be saying a few words in just a few minutes. Also Deputy Director Danny Placencio, Division Manager for Family and Community Services, Jess Martinez. And I came out several times with Jess as this building was being constructed. And the amount of time and care that they put into this building was unbelievable. They gave their heart and soul to make sure that this was built properly. This is phase one, and I've already told Jess, phase one is not enough. You know, we want a gym here, and there's going to also be additional exercise rooms in this location. The barracks were here for several years, and that was about 2,500 square feet. Today we have a little over 5,000 square feet in phase one. Again, phase two will include the gymnasium and other major components to this community center. But again, for many of our families right here at the Pat Hurley Community Center, you know, this community center, like I said, was established back in 1974. It was a small building, and then came the barracks, but it was the first community center on Albuquerque's west side. But now, here we are today standing in this beautiful new facility, and thanks to the rest of our staff, Director Melissa Lozoya from DMD, she is not here today, Dmd Project Manager for the Community Center, Stacy Herrera, and his manager, Steve James and Jim Hamill, Director of Parks, Barbara Taylor and her staff, and also Gear Stafford, our architects, and the contractors, T.A. Cole and Sons, Skip Cole and Antonio Garcia. I think they are both here today. But again, you don't build these type of projects alone. It takes a community effort. And I've always said, together we can and we will make a difference. I think this is an example of how well we have done as a community. At this time, I would like to invite up the Director of Family and Community Services, who I've worked with very closely on this project, Doug Chapman.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you.
This is truly a great day, and what a beautiful day to be able to celebrate the opening of the Joan Jones Community Center here at Atrisco Hills. This center took about 13 months to actually complete, but there's been a lot of work that's been going on behind the scenes for many months leading up to that. And I just would like to join the councilor in thanking staff from Family and Community Services, Jess Martinez, and your folks that'll be running it. I'd like to thank the Department of Municipal Development, Melissa Lozoya and Jim Hamill, our project manager, Stacy Herrera, Jim Hamill, and Steve James for helping make this come together. We very much appreciate that. Councilor Sanchez, thank you for your work and for your support and your advocacy for our community center so that we can offer great programming and great facilities. And without your support, we wouldn't be able to do this. So thank you very much. We're looking forward to the families being able to come here and take advantage of our after-school programming, the summer recreation program, and some family engagement programming as well. We know that the Pat Hurley neighborhood will embrace the new center and use it to its full potential. So again, thank you all for being here today.
Thanks, Doug. Also with us today is the president of the West Side Coalition, who I have worked with very closely, and that is Jerry Worrell. Jerry?
What a great day. I want to make this about Joan Jones. When I came to Albuquerque, and I was honored a few years later to be elected president of the West Side Coalition, Joan Jones was progressively getting more ill and wanted to step away. And I said, Joan, you can't leave me with that group. And she said, all right, I'll give it another year, and she did. And if you ever had the pleasure of working with this gal, it was kind of like, oh gosh, there's mom. Okay, I mean, she just let you have it whenever you needed it, and God bless her for that, because, you know, she cared so much about the West Side, so much about this community, and it was just a pleasure to work with her. So thank you, and thank you everybody for making this for her. Thanks.
Jerry, thank you. I would also like to invite up Dr. Joe Vias. And if my mouth looks like I've been beat up and I've got hit in the mouth, it was because I had some dental work done by Dr. Joe Vias' son yesterday. I'm still a little bit swelled up. It's not Botox. But I'd like to invite up Dr. Joe Vias to say a few words.
I think he said his mouth is messed up. Actually, it's going to be a hell of an improvement. Anyway, sorry I'm late, but I did know Joan Jones for a long time. I was at the EPC hearing all morning where Joan, if she were alive, would have been also. And I've always said this before, but there are those people in a community that make a difference. If they don't exist, the community doesn't advance forward. She was a leader. And just like people before, like Louis Tafoya, like Bob McCannon, like others that you've seen around, when those people pass, they leave a big void. And I can tell you about Joan that she was a special person, but she spoke truth to power. And she did it in a couple of ways. She could meet you someplace and say, oh, hi, darling. That was her favorite word, darling. But she could also do it this way. Hey, darling. And that was Joan Jones. And she spoke truth to power. She was not afraid to talk back to the mayor or anybody, and I respected that woman, still do. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vias. At this time, I would like to call up Jim Jones. Behind every strong woman is an outstanding and great man. And Jim stood by Joan in all the years that she served as the president of the Neighborhood Association. They've been involved, I think, 23 years now in the Pat Hurley Neighborhood Association. And Jim, I want to thank you for all of your work. And you've been involved also with Pat Hurley for many years, but look what we've done here today. And I'd like you to come up and say a few words about your wife and also about this great community.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jim.
If Joan were here today, she'd be screaming and hollering in joy. There's no two ways about it. So many times when we were in those old temporary classroom buildings, she said, the people here deserve better. And she started banging on desks, yelling and hollering, and finally she got what she wanted. Now, it's too bad she's not here to see it, but I got a feeling she's watching. I still mind my P's and Q's. But I am very grateful to the city, the leaders in the city, and all the people that turn the wheels in the background, the neighborhood that had supported her for so long. And I'm just happy as can be. I think this is great, and we'll move on from here.
Thank you, Jim. That flyover today was not planned. At this time, I would like to call up the member of the Albuquerque School Board, and I've worked very closely with her for many years. She also served as the president of the West Side Coalition. She is currently serving on the Albuquerque Public School Board, and she has served many years as the president of the Laurelwood Neighborhood Association. Candy Patterson.
Thank you, Captain. Thank great day. And thank you so very much, Councilor Sanchez, for making this a reality for Joan. You know, I had the opportunity to work with her as president of the West Side Coalition, as an officer, and outside of that. And her heart was in the families and children of this community, and she wanted this to be a place for our community. And today, here we are. And I thank all of you for being here also. And this is a great tribute to her. And I want to say that I know she's watching. Let's do this right. Thank you.
Thank you, Candy. At this time, I would like to invite up Ed Padilla. Both Ed and I were at the hospital with Joan the day she passed away. And I was with my policy analyst, Elaine. The schematic design work was just completed. And unfortunately, Joan did not have that opportunity to see that. But Jim said, come by, bring the design work so we can at least talk to Joan and let her know what's going on. But at that time, she was still alive. And I'm sure deep down in her heart, she felt the presence of this community center being built in her honor. And I'd like to invite Ed Padilla up to say a few words.
I met Joan years ago when I was just a young patrol officer here working with the Albuquerque Police Department. Joan was always one of those community members that we could always count on. As I moved on through the ranks with APD, I eventually made my way up here as a watch commander. Well, as a watch commander, we relied on the community. We relied on community interaction in order to help solve a lot of the problems and a lot of the issues in order to make our neighborhoods safer. Joan was committed to safer neighborhoods. It wasn't only about Joan, it was about the neighbors, it was about the people across the street and across town. Joan's commitment was to her community, was to her city. And I think this is an outstanding tribute to Joan because it's something that'll always be remembered by all. And in the future, some people may not know what Joan was all about, but when they find themselves living in a safer community, they may know that Joan had a little piece of that success in making her community a safer place. Again, I want to thank Jim because he was always a part of making our community safer as well and stood by Joan every step of the way. The morning or the afternoon that Joan passed away, I was in the hospice room with her, and I talked to Joan about all that she has done for our community. And I just knew that she heard every word that I said. And one of the last words that I said to Joan is, we will always remember the work that you've done for us. And this is another way of allowing all of us to remember Joan Jones. Thank you, Joan.
Thank you, Ed. I'd like to call up Michelle Campbell. She is the commander for this area. One of the things that Joan always took to heart was members of the Albuquerque Police Department. She would have appreciation luncheons, dinners, and just welcome the police department to neighborhood association meetings. But her love for the police department and her care for public safety was paramount. And she was one of the great leaders when it came to working with APD and knowing how well the APD was appreciated in our community. And I believe Commander Campbell is here today to say a few words. Welcome, Commander.
Thank you. Good to see you. So thank you all for being here today, and I think everyone has done their bit to capture Mrs. Joan Jones. But I want to say from the heart, I've worked the West Side the majority of my 20-year career, and she was always a part of it. And like everyone said, she did definitely bridge the community with the police department, and she cared about everyone, and she would hold, her and Mr. Jones would hold just a get together for us every year, and I miss that the most because she was so friendly and she really wanted to do right by everybody in this community. So again, thank you all for being here, and we look forward to having this community center for the kids.
Thank you for your work, Commander Campbell, and also the police officers that are here today. At this time, I would also like to invite up Richard Elwell. Richard was my very first boss because I did work here at the Pat Hurley Community Center. I'd run down the hill because we lived right on top of the hill, but I'd crawl back up because he was a slave driver when it came to work every day. But again, Richard basically was the founder of Pat Hurley Community Center. And I want to thank Richard again for all of his work and what he's done. He's been a true champion for our young children throughout this city. Richard, welcome.
what a beautiful place, and the right name for the center. And I told Kenny, why don't we involve the Atrisco Hills? Because who knows who who knows who Pat Hurley was? Anybody here? Raise your hand if you know who Pat Hurley was. He was a dear friend. he was a dear friend of Kerry Tingley. And Kerry Tingley said, I'm going to name that Sand Hill for you. But anyway, I thought Atrisco Hills was better than calling it Jones at Pat Hurley. He said, call it Community Center Jones at Atrisco Hills, which is this neighborhood. This thing started in 1974 when we had a baseball field here. And they stay over, and you know, baseball players, after the game, they drink forever. So Mr. Ross lived right about midway on the hill there, and he finally got tired of the noise, so he sold it to the city. Kiki Cervera was assistant supervisor with Parks and Recreation, and he said, God, we have a little money here, Rich. You want to open up that old place that Mr. Ross had? So we did. That's where it started. And after 43 years, we finally made it, Kenny. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. That was phase one. Again, we're planning to build the gymnasium, and hopefully he'll be coaching again one day here at this new gymnasium. But again, I just want to thank all the people for your involvement in getting this community center done. It was a tremendous amount of work, a tremendous amount of effort, and like I said, our team can't do it alone. And I want to thank Tom Minicucci, he's here from City Council staff, and my policy analyst, who does a great job each and every day, Elaine Romero. And Julian's here also taking pictures. But again, this goes back a lot of years, and Joan served as a president of the Pat Hurley Neighborhood Association for 11 years. And we've got some great community leaders with Jerry, Dr. Valles. You know, they've done a great job, and they really care about the people in our communities and in their areas. And that's why I think we can make a big difference in our community, because we, as elected officials, cannot do it alone. We really rely on the voices of our neighborhood leaders. And boy, Joan was a tough one. And when Joan spoke, we listened. Again, I'm going to close by saying I'm still asking Parks and Recs to build a zip line from the top of the hill to the bottom. We know that's not going to happen. But let's go and have the dedication and the ribbon cutting of this facility. And are there any questions?